Hey guys, welcome back to the Paladin's Alliance and welcome to another Unsung Heroes of Counter-Strike episode. We've done a lot of supportive elements and some unorthodox players as well with Mezzi on Fnatic, but I want to talk about currently the 5th best team in the world according to my power rankings. I'd put them a little bit higher at 3rd place, but Heroic has been a very interesting concept in World Counter-Strike right now. When you talk about them and you go down the list, you have quite the number of fraggers on this team, and you can obviously bring into question about whether or not Cadian is an elite opper, but beyond that, the 4 other players on this team are all very, very skilled players. But the player that I want to talk about the most on Heroic that I think is an unsung hero and isn't talked about as much when it comes to this Heroic lineup is Sjuush here. Sjuush has done a lot of great things on Mad Lions before he came onto Heroic, but now that he's here, he's found a new system to fall under with Cadian and now exist, that he's kind of reinvented his career in some ways that I wasn't expecting from a player like this as young as he is. And now he's gotten to a point in his career where he's totally found his role out and he's doing it very well at a high level. And it's the reason why you can have players like Tessus and Stalin to just wreak havoc and get those high level stats, because you have players like Sjuush that are willing to do the more difficult roles and less glamorous roles that Counter-Strike has to offer. You know, the entry roles, the supportive utility roles, and playing for information. You know, the good stuff that we've come to know and love in this series overall. So when we look at his statistics, again, they don't jump off the page. They're very similar to Inter's stats for that matter, where you have a pretty high DPR, but your rating is low, and you're not necessarily getting this is more apparent for Perfecto's stats, where your deaths per round are very low, but your ADR is okay and your impact is okay. Obviously, Perfecto is probably the best episode that we can make out of all of these supportive elements, because I think for right now he is doing it the best. But Sjuush is a different player in that regard. He isn't like Perfecto in the sense that he plays for a very survivability style of play, and instead he actually is a very skilled aimer and tries to take advantage of that in certain scenarios, and you'll see that through the statistics as well. Now when you look at his all-time, his opening kills to opening deaths ratio is quite high, 1.08. He does very well in this role, and for good reason. He is very skilled in his first bullet, and he takes advantage of that. And when you move it down to the 12 months, obviously you have some events in more recent that have brought his stats down. That's why it's 345 to 355. But still, regardless, he has done well to get these kind of stats, right? And when we look at his events, again, the stats don't jump off the page, but that's what the series is for, to go beyond that and show the impact that this player has beyond statistics. And so we'll go into the demos now. I picked it around 4 or 5 rounds to showcase each little facet of Sjuush's gameplay and why he's so effective on this Heroic squad. So we'll start with the major quarterfinal that they had against Virtus Pro on Mirage. They went 8-7 down the middle on their CT side, and there's a lot riding on this pistol round for Heroic, because if you don't win the pistol round on the T side, it can get a little bit problematic to try to fight back through gun rounds and try to whittle down the CT economy as they build it up. So I just want to show you the stats at what Sjuush is at right now. He's 4-11, not really having the best game and the most impact. But regardless, I want you to see how fearless he is and how bold he is to take certain fights here. A very disadvantageous fights, but if he wins those fights, then he just steals a round away through sheer skill alone. So they basically just wait around. Sjuush mainly plays anti before going out ramp, mainly waiting for contact from the B Apartments player, and Refresh basically gets gifted a kill here. I don't know who goes. Yeah, Yekindar goes hunting here as he usually does, and they're prepared for that. So Refresh gets the kill. He's gifted it. Yeah, he's gifted it to himself, and now they have to pounce. They throw the smoke down. Tessus had a smoke and a flash, and this is the fight that I think is really bold of Sjuush, to take a fight to ticket with a Glock while fighting basically a USP. The range advantage is superior for Virtus Pro, and still Sjuush decides to win this fight because of a little bit of the residue of the flash. And this is where James strikes. And once James strikes, Tetsus and Sjuush are in on this. They want to take as wide angles as they need to, because they know that Con Smoke is down. And even though Flit gets a kill from triple, Sjuush is there to trade both of these kills. He's now aware of both of the pieces of information and fights triple, and then continues to fight in connector as well, and gets James through the smoke. This is just amazing from Sjuush and the proactivity he has, and he realizes that he has to take point in these situations, because if not, these rounds are gonna fall apart. There's no way that they're gonna be able to trade these kills, because all of these players are gonna disappear. And you saw James was trying to disappear back in a connector, play the 3v3 out, but Flit goes down, and that's all the indicators in Sjuush's mind that James is trying to slink away. I need to pounce now, and so that's why he spams the smoke. So very bold peaks from Sjuush, and he wins those fights outright. And then also the proactivity to get the man advantage firmly in their favor before the bomb goes down, because we all know how easy the retakes can be on the A bomb site compared to the B site. I want to give another example as to how proactive Sjuush is and how well he understands the map. There are certain moves here that he makes in this round against Virtus Pro, same quarterfinal map 3, where just the attention to detail that he has and the support that he has via flashbangs is impressive, to say the least. And this heroic system really builds Sjuush up to be a great player. So on the T side, they throw their standard mid utility, and then they want to take banana here, but they're not necessarily as aggressive as they should be. So they don't necessarily gain banana as they hope they would, and for that reason, say that they even throw these flash here to try to retake it. But you have a player deep logs, and more than likely there's no way that you can really get back into B. So as soon as they keep trying to poke and prod it, nothing really works out, and they actually pull a third player over on the VP side. And luckily Heroic don't bite. They instead decide to pivot back to brackets immediately, because they understand that VP are trying to be a little bit more proactive on banana and hold on to that piece of map. So they smoke off arches, and they just blind peek into port side, and he decides to take the fight there. He doesn't get anything, so he says, screw it, I'm going to get flashed through my own arch smoke and take all of arches on my own. So he walks up, he clears all of the CT arch position, and then he's trained on library, and he gets rewarded with that kill. But instead, key thing here is, instead of pushing his own arch smoke, or sorry, his moto smoke, and going into the A site, he decides to clear all of CT in the small opportunity that the Opper or another B anchor is rotating through CT to kill him. So this is a smart play to clear all this out. Luckily, for VP rather, they've bypassed and they take advantage and push through banana, and this catches players like Katie and Tessas off guard. Yekindar goes huge and gets 2 kills here. And so again, they've lost track of Sjuush. So he takes advantage and pushes now through his moto smoke and gets rewarded with the kill on kicker. And so they understand that both of the players are on the lane side of things, especially with that Molotov. So Sjuush has the only pieces of utility here and decides to play a little bit more supportive, set up Refresh, because he knows how clutch he is. Sets him up very well, gets a kill on Yekindar. He has no idea what's going on. Jay misses a shot, which means Sjuush now has access to the bomb, and Refresh clutches it out. 2 kills for him. And this all is predicated on how Sjuush is willing to just play the lapdog roles for Refresh here. He knows that his teammate is a very clutch player, and for that reason, he'll take the back seat. He'll set him up. He'll throw flashes for him. He'll bait out the shot for Jamin. Even if he does go down, Refresh is still able to trade out that kill very effectively. So a very supportive, a very bold player is Sjuush. So we'll jump into another couple of rounds here and showcase a little bit more about Sjuush and why he's so good on Heroic. Yeah, Sjuush can be very aggressive, especially on the T side of things with his entry rolls. But on the CT side, he also knows how to anchor, and he knows when he can tuck in and play a little bit more of a bait situation. And he does it very well here against Liquid. This Liquid was looking very dangerous at I don't know which Blast tournament it was. It might have been the Fall Finals or the World Finals, I'm not sure. But this starts off with a 2-for-1 for Tesses, and we're sitting at a 4v3. The A bomb side is still very weak in that sense, and you only have 2 players here, which can get just eradicated with a good execute, and they're aware of that. So Sjuush decides to play basically 1-for-1 and set up Cadian for more kills down in mini. And while all of this is happening, Liquid decided to take a lot of outside control because there's not really anything trained there, and they still have so much utility. They basically just waited around to see if there's any extra aggression from Heroic, and they tend to give it sometimes. And while all this has happened, Sjuush has thrown his smoke preemptively into Hut because he's really feeling very anxious that there is going to be something coming out from Liquid here, especially with all that lobby control that they do have. So what they decide to do is they'll say, okay, we're running down the clock. There's 20 seconds now, and we've seen nothing on the B side of the map. They haven't thrown any outside smokes, so that means that an upper execute is probably on the cards. So Sjuush decides to tuck in and let Cadian take point here. Cadian is willing to take the first shot and keep facing and get as many kills as they want and let Sjuush secure the round. And Sjuush is well aware of this and decides to play very safely. So Cadian prepares and doesn't get rewarded for anything. He actually goes 1 for 1. He misses the shot, actually anticipating a player to come from Hut. But Sjuush is there to punish, and now there's 9 seconds on the clock, right? He stalls for so long here. And only gets 1 kill. Only gets 1 kill, but this is very reminiscent of when I did the Perfecto video, where he understands that the time is so low. He needs to stay alive for as long as possible. And he's just stalled so long for this trade that Staven has traded through with this kill in Heaven. Refresh is flying up the ladder here, eventually. So Fallen is left with an impossible task. Where can he really plant the bomb? He tries to run, tries to trade. We're not 4 seconds. He can't do anything. The round goes to Heroic purely, in my opinion, off of Sjuush's Heroics. He's able to get the 1 kill on Grim and then stay alive because of how aware he is of the time. This is something that Kyojin really struggled with, where he would take an aggressive peek thinking that if I get a multi-kill spray down, perhaps I win the round. You have a lot of different upper anchors that don't really know how to play this spot. But Sjuush plays it beautifully, and there's a reason why Heroic's CT side on Nuke is so effective. Sjuush is such a great anchor on the A bomb site, and you can see it with their win percentages alone as to why Nuke is such an integral part of Heroic's map pool. On the CT side of things, I showed where Sjuush is a lot more tempered in his aggression and decides to actually play a lot more of an anchor position. But when the going gets tough, frags are the reason why you can win rounds, and Sjuush shows that here and takes matters in his own hands on the CT side of Overpass against Liquid. So he usually plays B here. Though the center Molotov doesn't want to get any extra aggression from Liquid on the T side of things. And immediately after he throws his utility, he's off. He understands that Heroic has a very aggressive setup in the bathrooms, and if it goes wrong, then we basically lost all A control. And so he throws his monster smoke as well because, you know, you don't want to waste that utility. And they go 2 for 1 in bathrooms. So at this point in the round, in Heroic knows that they've lost the A bomb site. But on Team Liquid side, they kind of have no idea. And they want to just posture for A because they understand that the defenses are weak there. But this is where Sjuush decides to plug the hole. He could play very passive on the A side of things. He could play the tucked in Cubby on Optimus. He could play on the back of Dicebox. He could play the map position. And they could probably net him 1 kill. But at this point, you're in a 4v3 that puts you in a 2v3, right? It wouldn't necessarily put you in a good position. And he knows that he has to get a multi-kill here to really secure a round for Heroic and allow a little bit more time for the rest of his teammates to get on the A-bomb side and set up an instant crossfire to shut down the round. So he aggresses into bathrooms, which is something that I don't see many players doing. To do something like this is very bold. It's very risky. You're basically putting a lot of stock in yourself to perform and get a round on the board here. So here's a lot of utility here. Refresh is already posted. Cadian as well. And they've thrown the smoke down and they've said, okay, literally Sjuush, you can wreak havoc on the bathroom side of things. We've got you covered if you do go down, but we need you to get kills here. Cadian actually pivots back to Heaven for a short while, and just to make sure if they've pivoted back to Khan, and he doesn't necessarily get anything. But here comes the execute from Liquid, and this is where he should decide to take a little bit of an off angle. So bold that Fallen isn't necessarily ready to trade that kill, even though Stewie was prepared. So even though Naf gets that final 1 for 2, even though Cadian misses, it sets up Refresh beautifully. Cadian gets the final kill onto Naf, and a 5th round gets on the board for Heroic, and it's all down to Sjuush being bold enough to go and play an off angle in bathrooms. You're not necessarily expecting that if you're Liquid, and it shows that proactivity and the nuances that Sjuush has in his gameplay on both sides of the map to really stick it to a lot of these opponents. And he's such a developed player in that regard that there's not necessarily a style that you can read into in Sjuush's gameplay that other teams can exploit, and for that reason, Heroic is always going to be a very deep team as far as their firepower is concerned, as far as their map pool is concerned, because their tendencies are very hard to read, and they can become a very deep team because of that. Just in case you thought that Sjuush can't necessarily frag out, well, this last round here has a little bit of eye candy. I always like to put these at the end of the video to just showcase how skilled these players are beyond their anchoring abilities, beyond their supportive utilities, and their understanding of the game. I just want to show how good of a player Sjuush is, even when he wants to get thrust into a clutch on this pistol here. It's again Navi no less, and I've talked about this in previous videos with that power rankings video as well. Navi objectively has the best firepower in Counter-Strike right now, and for good reason. You have Simple on your team, right? The GOAT. And he gets a kill up long, and this spurs on Sjuush and Co. to aggress down into the A bomb site, and it kind of goes awry. But Sjuush gets the trade, and we're sitting from a 2v4 into a 2v3 now, and they have the bomb site, but at what cost, right? This is where it's all down to Sjuush and TeSeS to clutch up, and Sjuush takes matters into his own hands. He starts to hear the spam here coming from Bank, and on the fade, he catches Boomich. And this is the kill that was insane to me, where he flicks back on an Electronic, and now he's aware. Now this is his element, where he can just play with his food, and he understands that the bomb is planted Optimus. He stayed alive from the skirmish with Perfecto, even though he got caught out. And he throws his flash, and Perfecto tries to face, and he realizes this is just fruitless. And he gets the 4th kill, secures a pistol for Heroic. And this kind of stuff is not easy to do against Navi. He catches all these really great timings. He gets a great trade. He gets some beautiful flick shots. This is just a package deal of why Sjuush is such a great player. He's proactive. He's very aware of the micro tendencies of certain players. He understands when he needs to be proactive and when he can just relax and try to play the trade game. There's just so much about Sjuush that I love about him, that he's such a complete player, and he's exactly the type of player that Heroic needs. You don't need a Bubsky on this team. You need a Sjuush on this team to accentuate the greatness of Stavin and Refresh on your team. And even players like TeSeS, that Heroic will always be a great team when Sjuush is on board and very willing to play these types of roles on this team. It's not necessarily a dedicated support player, but he takes supportive tendencies to help elevate Heroic's game and make them a top 5 team, to make them contenders heading into 2022. Heroic's end of the year might not have been the best for them, and we're obviously bringing in question marks for the squad as a whole, and I have definitely question marks in my own thinkings. Heroic as a squad has done very well in 2021, fighting through the backlash that they had and going beyond that, and really competing in a lot of these tournaments, even with the amount of internal conflict that this team has been having. I'm still very impressed by their poise in that regard. And heading into 2022, the pieces are always obviously there for Heroic. They don't necessarily need to make a roster move, and you can kind of look to different intangibles that might be their downfall. Emotions being very high on this team to backfire if things go wrong. You have necessarily the best opper on the team with Cadian, and we don't necessarily know the longevity of that. When pressure gets to this team, there isn't necessarily somebody you can turn to become a very clutch player. Obviously, Refresh has had his moments, but it isn't necessarily the end-all, be-all that Heroic needs. And for that reason, they might not necessarily be able to peak at number 1 and slay Navi, but this team is very, very good. And maybe in another world of Counter-Strike, we would have them as number 1s, and we did in the online era. So look towards Sjuush, look towards Heroic at IM Katowice. They've been doing well, at least before the Borup move that they had to make last minute. And I'm sure you'll see results from them. If not, you could probably tack it to the crowd factor and the fact that they're not necessarily used to that setting just yet. And that's all I really have from this Unsung Heroes episode. I'm glad to bring the series back with Sjuush, and I'm excited for Counter-Strike to kick off again. We have a long way to go. I have a couple more videos in the pipeline, a little bit more of an analytical video through demos. I've switched over from the presentation style just to the analytical stuff, just because I really enjoy doing this kind of stuff, seeping through the demos and whatnot. I've really enjoyed doing that. And with that, I'd like to just plug my Patreon yet again. I do demo work even more with the Patreon stuff that I have, where I'll be doing full POV breakdowns of entire demos to really break down whether or not certain players are good, or whether or not they have a lot to understand, and we can learn based off of that and enhance our own gameplay by watching these players play the full game. And if not, you can join my monthly Q&A. So look out for that. If you guys are feeling any financial assistance that you want to give, it's all going back into the channel. Always, I will be doing it to upgrade the equipment, to upgrade the quality of these videos, and whatever you may be able to give. Don't hesitate if you do feel that way. I'd like to think that I'm making some pretty good content and elevate this channel even more, because I have a lot in store for this channel and I want to bring you guys a quality content. And subscribe, like, all that good stuff, and I will see you guys in the next video for this week. Peace.